Welcome to Watercolor 42. I'm going to try to be a little bit more instructional with some of my activities. Sometimes I leave a step out here and there, which is not unusual sometimes. I don't follow any particular script sometimes, so I'll start in here, there, or whatever. But one thing I do have to make sure, I want to make sure I know where the center of my paper is. Sometimes I mark it off. I estimate, halfway across vertically and halfway across horizontally. And where those lines bisect there, you know where the center is. I do it very light in pencil, just enough for me to see it, and so forth. But what I do also is try to work off of, I don't want to make everything kind of symmetrical, you know. I don't want to have everything kind of half, so that you cut the paper in half, and this side looks like that side. And how many times have I been into different buildings, banks and medical offices, doctors' offices or whatever, and you look at some of the artwork on the walls, and you say, well, I wonder what they were thinking about, because they're usually they're prints, you know, they're not the actual painting. They cost a fortune probably, but they're very good prints that they may have. And sometimes the worst thing is when they split the paper right in half, and so one side, the left side looks like the left. So you want to offset things. Always think of offsetting uneven numbers. You know, I advocate that a lot. I talk about, making uneven numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, so forth, and so forth. It just makes the compositions a little bit more interesting. And then, of course, there's the L composition, which is vertical on one side and then across the bottom, and then there's something in that open area. It might be water or something, and then a sailboat, whatever. But so what I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to show you that I don't want to start boom directly straight. I want to kind of angle in. If it's a road, I have it curve. If it's a river, I have it kind of zigzag or curve again. Using a diagonal line, that's the line that tends to move. So a lot of times when you look at my paintings, people say, well, it looks like you kind of make things move around a little bit. Yeah, I want to take the eye in and take you around, and I want to kind of keep you in the painting. I don't want you doing something that goes too strongly out of your painting. So let's see if I can give you some examples of that. Now, if I want to set the line between the sky and the ground, I don't want to go 50-50, evenly, but I have to make a decision. Do I want this to be primarily a sky painting that uses probably 2/3 of the paper and then 1/3 for land? If you want a land painting, then you go probably 2/3 or 3/4 of the paper just being land, and you just show a little bit of sky across the top. So you have to keep that in mind. Do I want the landscape to be just level, or do I want to give it a little bit more of an irregular contour? So let's see what we can do. Now, I'm going to draw this in pencil. Now, normally I draw it just enough for me to be able to see it, but I guess I've mentioned it before. I'm trying to draw sometimes either use a permanent marker or use a regular 2B pencil, and draw so that the people at home can see the drawing on your TV set. Okay, so let's decide. Now, halfway here, center is about there. You could put a dot there or whatever you want to do with it. And then for the land, I have to make a decision. Do I want a half sky, half ground? So in this case, I think I'm going to go with a little bit more ground than sky. So here's the center line, so I'm going to put the ground line above that, maybe an inch or so above halfway. Let's see, and it's going to look like that. Let's see if I can make, whoa! Turn the pencil on its side too much. Here we go. I'm going to make that sort of irregular across there, okay? You see how that works. Now, okay, there's that line. It's above halfway, okay? Now, that's okay. Now, am I going to have a road go through here? Do I want that road to go zoom like that, straight down, you know, like an open highway? Or do I want to give the road a little bit of a turn? If I want that to be water, I'm going to have a little bit of a turn to it. You can have it go bend to the left. You can have it bend to the right of halfway. So we know that in perspective, the width is always wider at the base here. So I'm going to start over here with a mark. This is going to be the width of the water. And probably over here we'll put a mark. Now the way it's going now, it's almost going to head center. So let's see if I could do something with that diagonal, right? Let's have that diagonal come in here. Hope you folks can see it at home. And when you get almost up to before the halfway mark, I'm going to have it turn the corner and kind of disappear off here. Oh, it is disappearing because the lead wasn't on the paper. Here you go. Now, okay, the width of the water, let's put that out here. I don't want it to be the same as that side, so let's move over a little bit more over into here. And that's going to go like over to a vanishing point, but that's going to kind of bend around the corner. There you go, around the corner, not straight, boom, ahead. All right, now, another thing I just mentioned briefly, the idea of not having things going out of your painting. You want to make things come into the painting. So in this case, I'm going to put some trees, but they're going to be coming into the painting. So they'll probably, again, not be straight. Some will be a little straighter than others. That's fairly upright vertically. Let's put another one. Now let's move this one a little further back. So here's the base of that tree. So this tree over here is going to be a little bit higher from the base of the bottom of the paper. Okay, so let's put another one off here. And again, that's going to bend in, okay? Now we got two. So remember I said the uneven numbers. Okay, here we go. Let's stick another tree coming back here. And that's a little further away. And maybe that's going up above the line here. Now these two are the same height, so let's give this one a little bit more height. This one can go almost off the page, okay? Now, all right, now on this side, same thing. The idea is that you don't want things going out of the picture, you want things coming in. So let's have one coming in, really bendy over here. And another one up into here. Here you got your two, and maybe a third could be something like that. That's a little bit straighter there. That can go in back of that one. You have to decide who's in front and who's in back, right? So you have to make those decisions. Now they're going to be wider than that. They're going to be wider than that. So I'm going to come down here. It can go off thin over here. And I sort of make the branches like a Y shape. Maybe we talked about that one time about making the branches more of a straight line than making them look too wormy or curvy, okay? So they might be something like that. And then as you come down, the trunk of the tree is going to get wider in here, okay? This one's going to be a little bit wider there. Let's go thick to thin up into here. Okay, you're going to have some branches coming off into here. Maybe something going off into the sky area. And this one's going to be a smaller base, and that's going to go thin. And we're going to put some more branches onto that. Now, you don't have to paint everything in, or I shouldn't say paint yet. You don't have to draw everything in just yet. I'm doing all the pencil work right now. Same way over here. We can have, maybe this one's going to branch out, like that. There's the Y shapes in there. You can make them different lengths too. You can make this go a little bit higher up into here. So as you're working on your drawing, you can adjust it. You can make it wider. You can add more branches, or you can have fewer. Now, a lot of times when you look at a picture, a photograph especially, it has a lot of leaves and stuff. It kind of fills in quite a bit. And sometimes you don't even see the main body of the tree. It's hidden by the branches coming straight out. And so that might be the case here. Now, there's going to be other things growing along the bank. You can put bushes. Sometimes you can speckle that in a little bit later. You can have a cloud in the sky back here. Again, make the clouds not kind of going out of the painting, but bring them so that they look like they're coming into the painting. See, like that. Something of that nature. So everything's kind of holding together here. Now, again, the plants, they can overlap the bank. You can have a little bit of the bank of the water showing the sides of the water. You have to have banks on water, otherwise the water will overflow and flood the land. That's why they always warn people about that live in low-lying areas that the rivers rise up. They don't have to rise very high before they go over the bank, and then you're in trouble. They end up part of your lawn becoming a little pond there. Okay, so we have to be careful about that. Now, how much more drawing that we have to, let's put a little bit of the bank on this side too. There you go, something like that. Now, there's other things that you can add. You can add a lot of shrubbery, the bushes and so forth. You can put plants in there. You can put weeds that are like a flower weed type of thing, and add color to it. Same way on this side. Now, you can show where the light source is coming from. Sometimes I put an arrow. If I tape the paper down, I put an arrow on the tape so that you know where the light source is coming from. And you try to keep that consistent, We know that the outside, when you're drawing and painting, that the light will change, and the shadows are going to change a little bit differently. If the light's coming from your left, the shadows are going to be on the left side of the tree and to the left on the ground, across the ground. If it's coming from the other side, everything dark on the shadow on the right side falls across the land onto the right side, and so forth. Okay. Now, whatever you want, how much you want to add. A little bit later, you want a couple of birds up in the sky. Again, not 2, but 3. How's that? 3 of something on even numbers, and whatever else. Now, you can put. This is up to you. You can add a few rocks, just kind of emerging out of the water. You can vary the size of those if you want. Okay, so let's see if we've got the sketch pretty well down. Now, you can do a lot more work when you paint it in. You can add more detail and so forth. But basically, this is probably all we need. We need to indicate where the water will be located, where the sky is, where the trees are going to be, and whatnot. Now, if you want to show some more further middle ground back in here, you can have some hills way off in the distance. That's up to you. A lot of times, if you fill this in, though, with bushes and trees, you might not see so much of the sky or the land, because you've kind of hidden everything. It's just like in my backyard, even. You maybe take a look at your own backyard. If you have a lot of bushes and trees, it all fills in. Normally in the winter, you can see the roofs of the houses that are located, that live in back of us. In the summertime, it all fills in. It all becomes like a solid, massive green, and it's sort of a jungle effect, you know. Okay, now, let's see what comes first. If it's an outdoor picture, I usually start with the sky, and I work from the top down. I do the sky, then the water, because those are the blues that I'm working with, and they predominate. Probably at least half of the picture is going to be sky and land, that color blue. So, anyways, so now if you're going to do a sky, I usually take the big brush, flat brush maybe. You can use a round brush. And we're just going to wet the paper. Just wet it. Put some water on it. Okay? Now your brush may have a little paint left over from the previous class. It's not enough to bother anything. Might have a little, it just has a little tint of yellow here, but it's so soft you wouldn't notice it. Okay, so you got that in. Now you can wet where the water is going to be down here, but a lot of times if you do that too soon, it may dry out a little bit before. Now, you notice the paper tends to buckle because you're wetting one side. So a lot of times what I do when I'm outdoors and it's a warm day, I take and wet the whole paper on the back. Just wet the whole thing down. And turn it over and lay it flat. It should flatten down. Another way to solve the problem, you don't have to wet the back if you tape the paper down. Okay, there are advantages to taping it down, but there's an advantage also is that you can pick the paper up and wiggle it around a little bit too. Make the paper, not the paper, but the paint move around a little bit for you. Okay, we wet the back. Now, once you do that, turn it over, lay it flat down. That takes away the buckle. It will stay flatter. Of course, it always has to stick up a little bit, doesn't it? Here and there. But anyway, all right. Now, we got that in there. Now, you could take, I usually use my cerulean blue or phthalo blue, and that makes a nice colored sky if you just take a little bit of blue and add some water. I'll be overly cautious here. I'm just taking a little bit of blue, and you can dilute that down a little more with your applying some more water on the brush. Okay, here we are. Now this does not have to be anything fancy. You're just putting some color on your paper. Now, if you want to leave some areas white, those could represent clouds. So if I like what happened there, I don't paint that. I may want to leave something a little bit white there, a little bit over here, whatever. Wiggle the brush around. Now, while you're at it, a lot of times what happens is that when the sun gets high enough, it takes and reflects the sky color onto the water. Have you ever noticed if you get up early in the morning and you look at a pond or a brook or something, it always looks muddy? That's because the sunlight hasn't got enough to reflect the blue sky onto the water yet. So just be careful of that. If you start very early in the morning, don't just because you see the water looking very dark and muddy, don't paint it that way, okay? Don't paint it that way. Put some more blue into it, okay? Something like that. Now, while we're still using blue, you can still use the same blue if you want. and then just paint in a little bit of the water. Paint the water in. You notice I didn't wet it as much down here. I wetted it. I wetted it? Yeah, I wet it a little bit earlier. Okay, here we go. Put that in. Now, if you want, you could take your brush, pitch your brush out on a towel, and you could come through this and pull through this and bring back some of the highlight if you want to give the effect of the water. Sometimes wherever the sun might reflect also onto the water part. Now, watercolor painting, it is what it is. It's watercolor, okay? So we got the water, you got the color, and then you just drop it in, right? And if you wet the paper first and then put the color and the water that's on the brush, it's called a wet into wet. Yeah, wet into the wet. So this is all wet into the wet. And that's what I'm doing right now. That's if you wet the paper first. Now, you've got a lot of color in there right now. Now, you have to think of the season, whatever you want the season to be. So let's say, for example, it's going to be, this could be spring, or it could be fall. But I think actually the fall is the prettiest time when the leaves change. Spring is okay once the leaves kind of open up and blossom out here. That starts adding a lot of green in a hurry. Grass, green, everything. Okay, here we go. Now, so I'm going to reflect back. I'm just going to see what happens if I do this. Let's take a little bit of yellow. I've cleaned my brush off somewhat. And you could drop some yellow into here. This is the background. And certainly we can put some yellow into this area. Okay, some on this side. 1, 2, 3. You got 3 areas of green. Again, uneven number. Everything's uneven. Sometimes you wonder, you keep saying that, you think your painting's going to come out uneven and not bent out of shape or whatever. You know, while I'm thinking about it, I was over at the museum the other day, and they've got the High Art Show on now, and their theme this year was distortion. And they took that word distortion and they had to kind of build they call it installations, those 3-dimensional things that they construct. And my friend and I, we were over there the other day and took in the show. And there was hardly anybody there in the morning early, but this happened to be, I think it was on a Wednesday. And so we took it in, and of course, it's like a group activity from the school, art department. Sometimes 2 or 3 people work on it, maybe 2 people, and then maybe you have 14 people, depending on whatever the installation would involve. But so, anyways, distortion is the word for this year's show, and when you say distortion, you can think of all sorts of different things that would be scattered around, you know, bent out of shape, if you will, and mixed up, you know, mixing things up. You could call your soup, sometimes minestrone soup can be a mixture of all the different vegetables and stuff. I wouldn't want a painting on the wall so much like that, but nevertheless, you know, you think of that being broken up and whatnot. So that was the theme this year. It was very interesting. And then the students do a little write-up about it, and they explain a little bit why they did such and such and such, you know. And it's kind of interesting to take in. I think that's going to be running as finishing up. I think it's the 30th, May 30th, that they finished that particular show. So the museum always has some good things going on. And the Watercolor Society over at Slater Park, unfortunately, they're only open Thursday, Fridays, and I guess Saturdays now, 3 days out of a week. And but they do have some nice shows. They predominantly, because it's a watercolor society, you're going to expect watercolor paintings and things of watercolor. But anyways, so we took that in also recently. I like to see what other people are doing, you know, and visiting places. There's some great museums around in the area. You can go to Providence and Worcester. There's a nice museum in Salem, Mass. These are all local ones, you know. Okay. I'm just kind of putting a little bit of, you could show some reflection. Like I said, if the sun's coming across, it's going to reflect on the water a little bit down to here. Okay. Now, I'm left-handed, so you notice I set up everything on the left side. If you were right-handed, you'd put everything on mostly on your right side. Your water, your palette, and so forth. Brushes. You don't want to be having to reach across too much. Especially with water, the water on the brush. Now, speaking of water, I'm getting scratchy. I always bring water that I use for my painting, but also water for quenching my thirst here. Now, so you notice I'm laying down. Now what we have here is what we call the base colors, the foundation colors, and you can let it set up. You can put the hair dryer on it and dry it faster, or you can put it near the heater or near the window, or if you're outside, leave it in the open sun, and it dries very fast. I have at the back of it, so that it's going to take probably a little longer, maybe. Okay, you can help it along sometimes to pat the puddles. That's a new one, isn't it? Pat the puddles. Okay, all right. Here we go. So we're getting along with this now. Like I said, if it's going to be a fall picture, I want to dry that a little bit. If you want to make it a sort of a fall picture, you can start adding a little bit more color. Now, I think a nice color to put into this would be a little bit of raw sienna, but also I think this one over here has some orange. So I'm just going to dabble around a little bit with this. You notice I just kind of jump around a little bit. I don't particularly paint one particular spot. I tell my students you've got to kind of distribute the color, and sometimes I use that word echo, the echo, repeat the color type of thing. Okay, here we go. Now, you might have some color on the ground. Okay. And literally, I'm just dabbing. I'm dabbing. Filling in. Trying to fill in some of that white paper, you know. But having said that, you can still allow some white to come through. That's the beauty of and the characteristic of watercolor. You can work a little bit more translucent or transparent. Translucent is a little bit heavier. Transparency is a little bit opening up, a little bit more lighter, if you will. You see through it. Whoa. Okay. Now this is kind of a big brush. If you want to dab a little less than that, let's go to maybe a round, or this one happens to be a square, flat across the bottom. But you can go to a smaller brush that has more of a point to it, if I can find one in here. Let's see, I just put one in here last night. There you go. All right. I have quite a few brushes, and I'm always telling my students, I said, you know, you don't have to have a truckload of brushes. Some of the brushes usually do about the same thing. If they're the same size and shape, they're going to do the same thing, you know, as all the others. So this is if you want to just dabble a little bit and get into texture. You know what works good too is using a natural sponge and just stippling a little bit, like I'm doing the brush now. You just break it up a little bit with some smaller dots. Here we go. Okay. I usually go off the paper here. Now you can lock it in with a mat later on if you want, or you can see the whole piece of paper if you mount it. You just mount it onto a background. Another piece of heavier paper. Okay, here we go. You can have some fun with this. This is just dabbing. You can buy one of those little stipple brushes too that's sort of round and flat on the bottom. But you could do it with a regular brush, a round brush. Just hit it light. And you can vary the size of the speck too. The lighter you go, the better it gets. Now, you can introduce a little bit of red, more red into it if you want. I'm not sure what species or type of tree we're dealing with here. Tree is a tree, right? Whatever. Maple tree, oak tree, elm tree. You can have some little things growing up in here. Jump around. So you're having fun. And, you know, try to relax and, you know, don't get too uptight when you paint. A lot of people, they pinch this little ferrule or metal part. They're down here pinching it so tight. Don't have to. Hold it up, wiggle it, usually on the end. That's why the handles are longer, so you can kind of stand back a little bit when you're painting. I knew a man one time, he did a demo, and he had actually put sticks and extensions onto his brushes so he could, you know, almost the length of a sword type of thing. He did dabbling, you know, hitting his canvas with the long-handled brushes, really long-handled brushes. Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah. Now, sometimes if you're going to mount or mat this thing, the mat's going to overlap it a little bit. So sometimes you don't have to go right to the edge. But today, I'm just filling the whole paper up. So that if you wanted to, this could be mounted instead of matted. Mounting is easier because you just stick it onto a larger background piece of heavier paper. It can be colored, it can be different colors. Try to have something that kind of goes well with the subject, though. You know, I'll put some odd color in there. It doesn't have any relationship to the picture that you did. See how that works? Now, as I'm talking, I'm letting this dry a little bit too. Okay? Even when I start working some of the trunks, this is a good brush for those trunks, by the way. A smaller, round brush for the trunks. This takes a little fussy work. Not too bad though. Now you're almost hiding a lot of that background. It's there, but it might just kind of peekaboo through a little bit later on. Okay. Just dab around. Now sometimes if you hit it with a little bit of a short stroke, you can just touch it up if you still want it to look like more of a spot. You can touch it up with another color. Now, another color, I think I put something over here. What's that? I guess that's all right to use. Looks okay. Another color. Now, if you're going to use another color, you want to kind of get that so it looks as if it's underneath in the shadow. So drop some of that down. You can fill in certain areas solid if you want. Okay. Let's see how underneath. Again, I'm jumping around, not painting. You don't want to wear the paper out in one spot, so you kind of move around. I had a student one time, I never named names, but that particular person got bogged down in one corner, and she was changing it, and every time you wash it out or whatever you do to it, it's wearing that paper out. You know, the paper can only take so much rubbing. And so I said, you're going to wear the paper out, and you're not going to be able to. Okay, move on, work on another area. You work down here long enough. Okay, try up in here. Do something up in here. You know, again, it could be a sharp brush stroke. You can fill it in. It's kind of solid in places. But you see how it's kind of pulling it out. And you really don't have to have a lot of a painting experience, so to speak, because all I'm doing is dropping color, patches of color, and coming along with a different size brush, and I'm tapping it. I'm tapping into that. The only thing, I keep that darker color kind of on the bottom, you know, underneath things, if you can. Okay? It will probably need a little bit more work as we go along. I have to check the clock, make sure we're, you know, staying with a time frame. Normally I might get a little bit fussier doing something down in here, but I don't know if I want to spend too much time with it. The thing is, you're always better off if you don't overwork. It doesn't matter what it is, even when you're cooking sometimes. Let's say spaghetti and meatballs and tomato sauce. Well, if you load it with too many meatballs, it doesn't look good. If you load it with too much tomato sauce, it overwhelms it. And the poor spaghetti, strands of spaghetti underneath get lost. Well, that can happen with anything. Cooking or anything you do. A lot of people overwork something. They put all the too many ornaments out on you know, little things you put in the grass or whatever. They overdo it sometimes. you can overdo anything too much, no matter what you do. So it's the same way with art. You're better to do less, know when to stop, or at least try to stop if you can, like me, try to stop. Okay, maybe a little bit more down in here, a little bit more texture. And it gives this side some equal opportunity, Now we still have to work some things into that along the edge of the bank. I could probably take, even right now, with this color I have, this is a sepia, so I could do this along the bank. Just put a line through here, right? And have it go from thick to thin. And just pull that down, pull the paint out of that towards the inside to the water. It's a little bit like that. You're kind of putting the bank in. But you don't want to make that too solid a color. So what I do sometimes is pinch the brush out, and you could pull some of the paint out too. Kind of pull it along, stretch it out into there. And while you're doing this side, just have that fade away. Have it fade away, kind of off the page here. Yeah, just something like that. And then have it come back in. Again, it's coming in, the picture not going out. Okay, here we go over here, along this bank. Whoa, need more paint on the brush. Yeah, something like that. And again, just take that and just pull the edge off. Take that edge on the inside. On the inside, just take that edge off. There you go. And then it kind of disappears around the corner. You might see a little bit of it, but it kind of disappears, okay? Now, while we're at it, as long as this is drying in here to some degree, why not, while we're doing some of the branches, you can add some of those into here. Now, they're going to show up in places. You could put something coming out of there. You put something out of here, but have it go back up in. And then as you get towards the top, you're going to take the brush and lift it. So it goes from a wider line to a thin line. Yeah, up in there. Now, if you miss a little bit, you can go back, touch it up. A little speck in here. Okay, maybe something in there. Okay, see how it's pulling together somewhat more. Okay, let's do this one. This is going to be, I think this one I made a little bit heavier. So you start wider here, hit and miss, and go off here. Thick to thin. All right. We did another one over here. Just kind of skip along here and there. Okay, so nothing in Mother Nature has to be, even. It isn't like a picket fence you have to have all the slats even, It doesn't have to be evenly measured because Mother Nature kind of grows where the seed drops type of thing, Okay, up into here, that can go off here. All right. If you want to make a little bit more cast shadow around the base. Now, we can, if you want, this is up to you. I don't know how much grass and weeds you want to put in your picture, but you can mix some of your yellow with the blue that you already have. I don't know if that's going to look green or not. Probably not. Probably not. I think what we have to do is get a little bit more yellow and not quite as much blue. I don't think that's still looking green yet. Let's try some more blue in it. Well, it's sort of a greenish. Yeah, it's not bad. It's, you know, it's part of the base color. We can go a little darker into it if you want. Again, you're just pushing, you know, in and out and about, you know, here and there. Doesn't have to be overly fancy. You're not putting lace around things. You know. Probably get a little band of something color into here. Goes around the corner. You can fill in some of that up in there. Fill in some of the white. You leave too much white sometimes. It looks like it's like a snowstorm, you know. So you want to get hide some of the white. Probably hide a lot of the white. Okay, we got this going. You can go back up in here. You want to reactivate some of that color in here, you can. Just pull it out. Just pull it out. It looks like shadow under there. You know, if it gets too heavy, sometimes you can just pull some of that color back out. Make it a little bit lighter. That's why I brush with one hand, the paper towel in the other. You can use an old cloth too. It doesn't have to be paper towel. An old sock or something you can use. Okay. Sometimes your mother might say, yeah, don't use all the paper towels. You know, maybe. I say mother, it could be anybody. It could be your wife too. My wife gets after me all the time. Don't use too many towels, you know. Even though I'm the one that buys them, she'll tell me to go cautious about things. Now you can put some color through here. You could use this color. You could put more blue into it. Make it a little deeper. See what happens. Yeah, I can make it a little darker, I guess. Fill in some of the holes. Again, I'm jumping around. Now after a while, you get very spontaneous. You get pretty good at this wiggling around, and so forth. They have these exercises you can do for, you know, swirly things and whatnot. But you can get pretty good at all this loose stuff. And watercolor, to me, I like watercolor because it is more fluid. And I guess I got a nickname for being Mr. Loose. Makes me think of the artist Toulouse-Lautrec. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Okay, here we go. If it gets a little bit too much, I just erase it. If it gets too dark, just go over and lift some of the color out, blot it. You can lighten it up. Whatever. Now, what I want to do is make a little bit of taller grass. I thought I put a very thin line brush here. Yeah, here it is. It's very thin, but it's long. It's longer so that you can extend a line, the paint a little further. In other words, you know, when you bring it out, it's not going to run out of paint when you try to put the branches in. You know, this type of thing. It's because you're going to see some of the branches showing through here and there. See how you just kind of do that? Again, it's one of those things that you lift up. You might have to practice this, you know. You might have to get used to that lifting, pulling up through there. Now, you can get carried away, too. You can have too many branches all over the place. And you got to make sure you make this tree continue, the main body of the tree. Don't break it up too much, you know. If you do, you got to hide it with more leaves in there. Okay. Now, I don't know what else. Well, what else is making some darker color. And I used up a lot of my yellow. I probably have a green in here, but to try to find it sometimes it takes forever. So let's just put out a little bit more yellow and take some of my brown and some of my blue, mix it into here and see what happens. I think what's going to happen is that I'm going to get just a deeper shade of brown, probably. But what I wanted to do is go through here and make some taller grass maybe along the bank. This brush isn't working for me too good. Yeah, that's okay, but not bad. Now it's working better. You want to just go through here and make some taller grass, and that's going to overlap the water. To break up the edge, it's going to overlap in here. Okay, there you go. Now, you could do as much as you want as far as finishing up the picture, but we'll put those little birds in there. One wing there and another one out. Like little V shapes, I guess. Yeah. Now, if one of them looks like it gets shot down here, what we could do is hide that, and that poor little bird becomes a leaf on the tree. Just fill it right in. Yeah, hide them. There you go. Anything that doesn't look right, you just touch it up. Okay, it's a little bit muddy over here. I'm going to take a clean piece of towel. I'm going to take a little larger brush. Oh, I don't want that one. That's okay. What we want to do here, we're going to wet this in here and blot it. Take some of that out, touch it up. Yeah. And anywhere you want to make something solid. Here's another thing too. You can put some, like from the trees, if the sunlight's coming from this direction, you can have some things that might be going across the water. That looks like a branch in there. But you can make it look like a little rock. You can have some protruding rocks in there too. Yeah, you could add some things. But you can also put some cast shadows going across the water. And if I'm kind of doing this a little quick, but see, you can put things across the water. That's a little bit too much blue. Take some of that out of there. Okay, you get the idea though. You can put some more things in there. Let's see. Just want to add a couple more little shadows in there. Okay, now another thing too, you might even want to make the water itself a little bit darker, you know, but by the time you get through here. Okay, so that's pretty much it, folks. I'm running out of time again, but it needs a little bit of finishing touches to it. But there's your little scene. That's a little bit smudgy down there at the bottom. But anything like that, you just take your brush, just water, and lift it out, or pull it out. Smooth it out. There's a little bit over here too. It's a little bit smudgy. But you can blot it out, and tomorrow morning it's going to look a lot different. It needs a little bit more depth in there, a little bit darker contrast in the background. This gets a little bit heavy over here. In fact, it just ran because I lifted it up too. So But if you catch it before it dries, you're all right. You have to be careful, you know, if you lift something up, it runs a bit. So that's it, folks, and thanks for being with us. Brushes up. Take care.